Today I'd like to show you how to roll trusses or set rafters on a building using a different method than what most carpenters use. Most carpenters will snap a line on the tails after they've already been raised and then cut them in place, which is kind of difficult to do, especially when you got, tails sticking maybe 6 foot past the building for porches or whatever. And this method, you can pre-cut your rafters or your trusses before raising any of them up, and then you will be able to set them in such a way that they will be perfectly straight on the tails if you, of course, set everything properly the way I'm going to show you. So anyway, let's get started. Okay, I'm using a 1x4s. I don't have any 2x4s with me right now, so I'll be using 1x4s. So anyway, what you do is you take, and let's see, I'm gonna snap a line on my top plate 1 inch in from the edge. So there's my 1 inch mark. Now, I've already done this, of course. I've already cut the length, but let's say, okay, so I want this amount of overhang in the building. Let's say 14 5/16. I want that to extend past the outside wall. So I'm making it mark 1 inch in. I've already cut it, like I said, at 14 5/16. Then I will measure it, and it'll be 15 3/16. Okay. Now, so on the very first truss, before you cut it, you make a 1 inch mark, and then once again you'll make that mark there at 15 3/16, and then take your square it up like that. Okay, so now you got exact measurement. Now we'll set that aside there. I don't have a 2x6. So I'm going to use this 1x6. So let's pretend this board here is the outside of my wall, the top plate. So you make a mark at 1 inch in, and go to the end of the building. Like I say, once again, this is top plate. 1 inch in. Then take a chalk line. And snap that line. Of course, on a building, this will be a lot longer, so it's the entire distance of the wall, one end to the next. Okay, then what you do is you got that mark right there that you made, and what you do is you got layouts here. Let's say 2 foot centers normally are trusses. So you lay out all your trusses, of course, and then what you do is you set that arrow right on that chalk line. So of course set that arrow right on the chalk line like that. Okay, so then therefore you now have an exact length, which it'll stick past the building, 14 3/16, because that edge right there is right there. The reason I don't like doing it with snapping a line and cutting the rafter or the trusses later is because your tails are only going to be, if you set them according to this bottom cord here, your tails are only going to be as straight as the outside wall is, and even then you can get off a little bit if you got waned edges or anything like that. So this line is perfectly straight. Okay, so anyway, you just keep putting them on the line on all the layouts, you know, just go right down the list. Okay, so every one of these tails have been cut exact. So what you do after that, you know, you get, let's say this is another truss. So you put your tape 1 inch, and then you just hold it back 15 3/16. If you want to set rafters, then you do the same thing. See how this is going to go together. So let's just say you make a mark. Go in 1 inch here. And let's say you want, I don't know, 15 inches, let's say, for a tail. So you measure from this edge 15 inches. Okay, then that's your cut. Then you would hook your tape after you cut it off, you know. Let's say this is a 412 maybe. Then after you cut it, then you hook the long point there, and you measure to that pencil mark right there, right here. So you've got 15 and 13/16. So that's what you do on every single rafter. You cut it from here, 13, or what was it? Oh, yeah, 15 inches. And then after you cut it, you hook your tape on the long point, and you got 15 and 13/16. Then all you do is every time you just line it up with that edge, and they'll all be perfectly straight. This is a really good method for spreading your trusses and not having to cut them after they're standing in place. And like I said earlier, it's a great method for when you have, let's say, you know, trusses that cantilever out 6 foot or whatever, 8 foot, whatever it might be, even 4 foot. And all you got to do is have your tail length established, cut it, hook the bottom cord, or I should say the tail, pull it into that pencil mark you made, and then you just slide the truss out to where that arrow lines up with the chalk line, and it's perfectly straight. You don't have to climb out there and cut them in place 6 feet out past the building, especially like if you're up 2 stories high or something, which is difficult. And before we used to put 2x4s on top of the trusses and then end up nail them down and then climb out there and stand on the end of a 2x4 6 feet out from the building and cutting them in place. This way you can cut, before you even drag the truss out there, you can cut it to length and have it perfectly straight. So I hope you like this method. Let me know if you like it, and click thumbs up if you like it. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Thanks.